of Europe. The Russian Navy, the Black Sea Fleet. After 3 years of defeat and defense, ships and sailors of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics prepare for the offensive. In the great ports of the Black Sea, in Odessa and Sebastopol, invading Germans sit entrenched, holding the Crimea in talons of steel. But the year is 1944, and the high tide of Nazi conquest is ebbing. The Red Army is driving into the Crimean Peninsula from the north, as the Red Navy brings in more troops to fall on the flanks of the desperate Germans. To Soviet sailors, Sebastopol with its magnificent harbor is a prize beyond price, and they mean to get it back at any price. Red planes bomb their own city, devastate their own harbor, preparing the way for the Red Black Sea Fleet. Throws all it has available against the Russian ships, but nothing stops the relentless wave of sailors, soldiers, and Marines into Sebastopol. The Allies. Where the German soldier stands, no other shall ever put his foot. But along 2,000 miles of Russian front, from the Baltic to the Crimea, the myth of Nazi invincibility crumbles. In the 18th century, it was Charles XII of Sweden. In the 19th century, it was Napoleon. In the 20th century, it is Hitler. Each of these conquerors has tasted the bitterness of the Slavic wastes. Each has floundered on the vastness and desolation of the Russian steppes. ages, city of defeats, city of victories. For the Russians, Sebastopol is a vital landmark on the march to Berlin. For the Germans, the loss of Sebastopol means retreat, disaster. Landing boats originally built for the invasion of England now serve another purpose. A German evacuation, a German Dunkirk in the Black Sea. May 9th, 1944, Sebastopol is liberated. But for the Russian people, the aftermath of triumph is heartbreak. Where the German army fights, there the SS murders and the Gestapo slaughters. The heaps of innocent executed hostages are monuments to man's inhumanity to man. The Germans came as supermen. That day is over. They leave as vanquished. That day has come. But before the German Wehrmacht is irrevocably broken, hammering in the east will find mounting echo in the west. And in the west, Germany begins to drown in the flood tide of Allied might. In the hard-won harbor of Naples, at Palermo, Corsica, Sardinia, the ships and men gather for the invasion of southern France. Operation Anvil. Ships by the hundreds, men by the thousands, will inundate the rear and flank of the Germans, who are struggling to contain the Allies on the Normandy beachhead, established 2 months earlier. And in North Africa, Oran, Algiers, Bizerta, Tunis, Alexandria. Catapults for the last great seaborne invasion of the European war. 800 ships will carry the liberators to the beaches on the far Mediterranean shore. And with them go 7 French divisions carrying the Cross of Lorraine. Back to French soil under General de Gaulle. Back to their homeland with the Committee of National Liberation. Secretary of the Navy Forrestal confers with Admiral Hewitt, commander of Allied naval forces, as the Armada sails unhindered from Islam to Christendom, toward the French Riviera, the Côte d'Azur, playground in time of peace, battleground in time of war. Of assault. Seize Marseille and Toulon, deep water ports which will feed the Allied armies in their sweep across France into Germany. Advance up the valley of the Rhone and join the troops from Normandy. Little opposition meets the liberators on the beaches. But inland, the Germans fight, and the Allies fight too. Inland. De la patrie. The day of glory has arrived. The French army is back again. back to fight again, back to liberate their brothers, back to free their country. Swastika. After 4 years of national eclipse, the French returned to their own. Marseille is French again, and so is Toulon. The French fleet has returned. And Paris, City of Light, August 25th, 1944. No enemy could extinguish the light, nor could he comprehend it. The light that never was on sea or land. The light that is in the hearts of only those who are truly free. Liberated boulevards, the tide of Allied might flows toward tomorrow's fronts, toward Germany, and history keeps cadence with the marching columns. The Battle of France is over, but many men now marching will lie still in Europe's earth before the fate of Europe is sealed. Europe's fate, the world's tomorrow. Both are foreshadowed in a little-known resort named Yalta, in the Crimea, on the Black Sea, 40 miles from Sebastopol. Cloaked in secrecy, the leaders of the Allied coalition meet in February 1945. The United States cruiser Augusta brings President Roosevelt, and Prime Minister Churchill is there to greet him. A new name is being added to the vocabulary of history: Yalta. Statesmen, soldiers, diplomats turn an obscure Crimean town into the temporary capital of the world as the war, east and west, thunders toward its climax. Rome has long since fallen. Now the world focuses its attention on Tokyo and Berlin. On all the 6 continents and on all the 7 seas, the Allies destroy the Axis. But here at Yalta, diplomacy takes precedence over combat. Joseph Vissarionovich Djugashvili, whom the world knows as Stalin, presides over the meetings at Livadia, favorite palace of his predecessor, Tsar Nicholas II. At Yalta, the Russians agree to enter the war against Japan, and the date for the first meeting of the United Nations is set. Other agreements, open and secret, sow the seeds of future controversy and contention. But on the immediate issue, the war against Germany, the conference is clear and decisive. The communiqué says, the timing, scope, and coordination of new and even more powerful blows by our armies and air forces into the heart of Germany have been planned in detail. Nazi Germany is doomed. 'Since the time when Roman legions stood guard along its banks, the Rhine has been a fateful river. Not since Napoleon have invading troops crossed over it. But now, in March 1945, the barrier breaks, and the heart of Germany lies open to assault. Seven Allied armies overrun the Third Reich from Switzerland to the North Sea. The Germans set out to master mankind. They carried their fight to the four corners of the earth. Victory after victory was theirs. Every victory except final victory. The swords of the winds of war in the east and in the west, in the north and in the south, reap the whirlwind of defeat at home. Of the National Socialist Party are consumed in their own flames and pass from the scene. It is the people who pay the price, in their persons, in their homes, in their heritage. Symbols of might and conquest, on land and sea, lie shattered and powerless, burned and sunk, rusted and corroded. Gone are the U-boats which threatened the Allies. Gone are the armies which threatened man. Gone are the planes which destroyed great cities. Gone are the means to enslave the helpless. And the men who set out to ravage and destroy, prisoners of war. Began in Warsaw, in Poland. There was Belgium, France, and the Netherlands, Yugoslavia, Albania, and Greece. Denmark, Norway, Finland, and Russia. There was Belgrade and Rotterdam, London and Coventry and Southampton and Liverpool. Scores of unremembered towns and villages. Devastation remains, but the names have changed. Cologne and Frankfurt, Dusseldorf and Mainz, Hamburg, Dresden, and Berlin. The Volkssturm, the People's Army, the last convulsive effort of a dying order to save itself. The very old, the very young, the feeble, the unfit, herded into tatterdemalion units and fed into the furnace of war. For the Volkssturm, it is one short march from enlistment to captivity. In May of 1945, the end comes. The death rattle of the National Socialist Third Reich. Hitler is dead, a suicide in his own underground bunker in Berlin. The new order he designed to last 1,000 years has died with him after only 12. The dictatorship that set a world on fire sputters out in unconditional surrender. Fallen, and the weapons of war perished. Germany is beaten. The axe is broken. Statistics are meaningless. The catastrophe incalculable. But free men have given mankind the opportunity to be free. And that is the greatest of legacies.